When you select a jury, it's not enough to put the right people in the box. And by the way, both sides want to do this. So for every juror that we as a prosecution team would love to have, well, the defense team probably wants to get rid of that person. And for every juror that the defense team would love to have, well, we'd probably like to get rid of that person. But in the end, we settle on 12 to 16 people, and then we give them the rules of evidence so that they can actually assess the case in a way that's reasonable. I guess in a sense what we're doing here is we are helping them to think critically, right? Because let's face it, we both know this, that there's not a lot of that probably goes on in culture anymore. It's not like this is happening at a high level, teaching critical thinking, either in public schools or high schools or even in colleges, right? So a lot of what we're doing is helping the people who are hearing our case for the resurrection to understand how to reason well, how to assemble evidence well, how to know something is true, especially if ideas about inductive, deductive, or abductive reasoning are not something they're used to because they haven't studied it since they were in school, or maybe they never studied it at all. And this is what we see with jurors too, right? We have to help them understand the nature of what it is to be direct or indirect evidence and how these kind of things come together. Let's just hop right in. Again, we've been talking about the rules of evidence as I've presented them in this book, Forensic Faith. This is the last reference I'm going to make to this book because we've talked about these 5 things that first responders do. We understand what our duty is. We understand how to train to get ready to make a case, to investigate something. Then we learn how to investigate and finally how to communicate claims. Now, we started kind of backwards last session talking about the instructions we often offer jurors to help them reason. Now I want to kind of teach you how to be a good detective. I want to teach you some simple investigative principles. All of this, my hope is to lay the foundation so that when we finally make a case for the resurrection, you've got something you didn't have in your tool belt before. That's the goal, to give you something you didn't have. Maybe you never even thought you could even investigate such a thing this way. I will tell you this. When you make a case in front of a jury, I mean like a church. You're going to a church to speak about this. And by the way, that's an important audience, right? It's not just the people who are skeptical who I want to reach. I want to reach people who actually believe, but they either believe something without evidence for it. They just came into it. They fell into it accidentally. And how I typically tell this to people is this. You know, I'm a Californian, and I'm a Californian. I can demonstrate it to you. I can pull out my wallet, and I can show you my ID card, and it says I'm from California. But if you ask me too many questions, like if you were testing me, really, you're from California? Maybe you made that's a false ID. Maybe you just made that thing, that's a forgery. Let me test you. Yeah, tell me, what year was California founded? I don't know. How many counties are in California? I don't know. How many people are in your county? I don't know. How many people are in the state? I don't know. How many linear miles of coastal, of sea coast are there? I don't know. Well, how many square miles are in California? I don't know. How do you pass a bill? What's the state legislature, the House, the Senate? I couldn't tell you. What's the state bird? I don't even know. What is the state tree? I don't know any of those things. Wow. So you want me to believe that you're a Californian, yet you don't seem to know anything about California. Is that the way most Christians are? I suspect that's the way a lot of Christians are Christian. I can say this at least. I was born in California and raised in California. And a lot of the Christians I knew as a skeptic could say the same thing. They were born and raised as Christians. But when I pushed back and asked those kind of questions, they really couldn't answer those questions. I kind of suspect that something's not right here. We have to be able to help people both in the church and out of the church know why these rules of evidence matter, why we need to be able to make. That's why we spent all this time laying a foundation before we get to the resurrection. You could very easily just go to a church or go to a group and give you the 5 reasons why or the 5 evidences for Christianity. But what I want to help you do is to be able to put those together and form a case that's robust enough and compelling enough and convincing enough on the basis of criminal trials that they've all been watching on TV. So they go, oh, I get it. That makes sense to me.